Welcome to Season 7 of the What's Up ABQ podcast. We'll kick off this season with a serious issue that's plaguing Albuquerque. Is it opioid addiction, alcoholism, homelessness? Actually, it's all three. But our guest today talks about a way that can help address all of these issues.
You can't help somebody that's not ready for that. That is the crux of so much difficulty, is this enabling that human beings do to others in the name of love. That's not love. There's a difference.
Welcome to What's Up ABQ.
Hey Albuquerque, this is Lindsay.
This is Lorenzo.
And this is What's Up ABQ.
Season 7.
What's up, Albuquerque? This is Lorenzo.
And this is Lindsay, and today we have with us
Paul Chavez.
So Paul, tell us a little bit about where we are right now.
We are at in the International District, also known as the War Zone. If I'm talking to the clients, they would not know what I'm talking about if I say International District. But that is San Pedro and Central here in the heart of Albuquerque. And we're at State of the Heart Recovery. And this is something I founded a few years ago. And I'm super excited to be meeting with you guys and sharing more about, what we're doing here at State of the Heart and why we're here.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's actually my next question. So what is State of the Heart Recovery, and what do you do here for people who don't know or maybe are curious?
So let me just say a little bit about myself. I think that's the context that lends to why State of the Heart Recovery was started. Because State of the Heart Recovery is a methadone clinic. I think most people would probably identify with what that is more quickly, but we're a lot more than that. I decided to try to blend together my love for counseling with my love for technology. And I wanted to figure out a solution for a problem that blended those two things together. So how could I do counseling and do tech and also solve a problem? And the problem I decided to solve that would be fulfilling to me and not be focused on how to make money, but more let that be the byproduct down the road. Right. And that was to solve the problem of substance use, mental health, and homelessness. So
those are completely light issues, they're super light. I'm just kidding.
Right.
No big deal.
It felt like, it turns out that the solution is quite common sense, but I mean, we'll get there. But so if you're trying to find people struggling with those issues in the community, you would likely find them in one of a few places. The emergency room, which is not a great place, to start because you're in a lot of pain at that point. Incarceration, not a great fan of the incarceration complex. We are a decarceration model, in fact. Out in the streets, right, in the alleys or on the sidewalks, like, struggling. Or it turns out an opioid treatment program, also known as a methadone clinic, would be another place you would find this part of the community because it's a harm reduction model, right? Because of that, a lot of people have really strong opinions about methadone clinics, and that they're not typically good sentiment, right?
I think it's really easy for people to have strong opinions from the outside looking in, maybe.
Yeah.
But, and this is just my personal opinion, I think that, when you have a lens into the types of issues that it touches on, your opinion might change.
And there's also, I think, I don't know anything about a methadone clinic other than there's like a rock song back in the day. What was it? Kid Rock, I think, was back in Edgefest days. But like, I don't know anything about methadone clinics. I know a bit about addiction because like grew up around a little bit, but like I don't know anything. So it's easy for somebody to form an opinion
without all
of education.
Right.
Yeah,
that's true, and also it does apply to people struggling with addiction. Also, right? That has a huge stigma in itself. So then when people say, "Well, so you are giving a narcotic to people with addiction, so you're just another addiction." Replacing an addiction, and you're not better because it's a narcotic anyway, right? And there's nuance there, right? There's some truth to all of that. And so But the reason why I decided to open a nonprofit methadone clinic was because it felt like that's where the clients were. That's where the community members struggling with this problem were. It was a controlled environment, but not so controlled, right? I didn't want to go work in a jail because I feel like I'm in the jail.
Right.
Because you have to be if you're working in there. So that was why the opioid treatment seemed like a no-brainer for addressing this issue. And there's a lot of money that flows into the treatment arena, right? And so mental health and substance use treatment and housing are really, what I like to call the treatment industrial complex, right? It's a lot of money flows through it. And so it all added up. There's a lot of money that goes through there. The services being delivered are minimal, and the clients are there every day.
Right.
And so it was like, okay, that sounds like a place you could do a better job,
Right.
and it's going to be properly funded, and they're there every day, so you get a chance to innovate and solve this issue. And I didn't have all the answers, but I felt like it was a great place to have the laboratory, I like to call it, right? State-of-the-art recovery is here, a 7,000-foot building, and it's a laboratory for trying to figure out how the community supports other community members that are, frankly, most likely to harm themselves or others in the community.
Right.
Somebody struggling with polysubstance use, meaning multiple substances, co-occurring mental health, meaning at the same time as mental health, and simultaneously homeless. Like, that is a trifecta of, a difficult situation. And a lot of, it's not in my backyard, right? Like, a lot of people, like, I want that problem fixed, but not.
But I don't want to get my hands dirty to fix it.
Yes, because they might not, those people may not smell the right way, or they may not have the right temperament, or they may be intoxicated. I mean, they don't want to, and how are you going to help them? You got to meet them where they are. So that's state-of-the-art recovery is technically an opioid treatment program. The state licenses the opioid treatment program, but also we're licensed as a behavioral health agency. So that's rare. Most opioid treatment programs do not have a behavioral health agency connected to it, within it. So we are Joint Commission accredited, meaning that's the highest level you can get accredited for in the industry of substance use and mental health, and we're accredited on both of them. We also offer intensive outpatient, so that's a different level of care. There's different levels of care when it comes to treatment, right? You have outpatient, you have inpatient, and in the middle there you have intensive outpatient.
Right.
So it's kind of in the middle. We offer that also in addition to the outpatient, and we also have a lot of housing services and a lot of other things that we can get into. So we are a methadone clinic. It is kind of like the anchor of where we start, and then we have a lot of other things that I could talk about.
So I wanted to kind of ask about, and I'm sure you do too, and jump in if you want to, the tech kind of side of it. That's something that's new for me is kind of going, okay, how could we use technology to kind of work on recovery? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I like to think of recovery as getting more powerful as a human being, right? So I feel like I'm in recovery of eating too many cookies, right? And I could shop too much sometimes.
I definitely relapsed on the cookie thing today, so I'm just gonna admit that right now.
That's right. I mean, we all have our vices, right? I mean, we're creatures of habit, right? Human beings are creatures of habit, meaning how far is a habit from an addiction? I mean, honestly, we're trying to balance ourselves on a daily basis. We all are. And so when you think about becoming more powerful, and if you have slipped and picked up something that's really difficult to put down, which this is what we're talking about here, substance use addiction, well, the opportunity to get empowered from that, it's kind of like, in Beverly Hills, they have biohacking centers, right? You go to the gym, get the cryogenic cold therapy, you get the,
infrared, whatever that is.
Infrared. Yeah, there is a ton of tools for hacking and supporting and empowering us physically, emotionally, mentally, right?
It's so funny because that just brought up like a memory. So we used to live in Portland, and I would go to the gym in Portland, but they would have the infrared thing. And during the winter, I was like, it gets dark at 4:00 in the afternoon. It's dark, it's drizzly, it's rainy, it's sad, right?
Yeah.
I remember going like, I probably need the gym, but I think I need this light more just for my own like mental well-being. So got it.
Exactly right. So State of the Heart Recovery, like if you go to the website, you'll get the impression that we do things that, we don't do yet. So when I started State of the Heart Recovery, I had a lot of overzealous ideas around bringing technology. As I said, that's what my love was, right? So I wanted to bring all these ideas of biohacking for empowerment, and it would help anybody, including people in recovery. And, the fact of the matter was I needed to stand up an opioid treatment program first, and I didn't really think about how critical that would be, and how it wasn't just like checking the box, like I was going to start that and that was going to be great, right? 4 of us starting here, the pharmacist, the nurse, the doctor, and myself. It's like that was it, and you just we did 4 intakes that day, right? But in the next month there were like 400 people that walked in the door because they needed a shower, they needed to store their belongings, they needed to get out of the elements, right? So because we opened the doors and just said come in, and we're not sure how we're going to help you, but we're here, we were flooded, right?
I think accessibility is just a big thing too, making things accessible to people and saying, like we have that, you need that, we can help with that. It might be simple, but.
So you were talking about the trifecta of mental illness, addiction, homelessness. Those all seem like, to me as an outsider, sometimes it seems like a problem that's too big to solve, like the unsolvable problem. It's just so great, especially opiates and the hold that opiates have on people. Sometimes it seems to me like, I don't like to feel like this, but sometimes it feels hopeless. And this is your front line. So what is that like?
And, I want to say that I think most people feel that way because of, for a reason. Like the media has had such an impact on how we feel about the issues. And there's so much money flowing into this industry that if it was fixed, or if there wasn't a problem to solve, right? Then you can't get your budget for the problem, right?
Right.
So the fact of the matter is, it's not that complicated to help people. A little goes a long way when you're in that situation, right? So it does take time, and it does take community, and it does take hope and purpose, and it's all of these kind of big things in a sense, right? But if I have $3 and I offer it to somebody in this position, that's a lot. $10, that's a lot, right? And to somebody else, that's not a lot. So that kind of makes the problem less big, right? Because you can do so much more with so little. So how do I feel on the front lines? I couldn't be more thrilled. More empowered, I receive so much with so little to give, right? Because through this non-judgmental community building that we're doing here, which honestly it's next level. We are, the mission to disrupt and revolutionize the treatmentlessness industrial complex. It's like, it's such a joy, right? To work with people that are really grateful, they're fearless. I kind of feel like we're recruiting warriors from the streets, and it's like they turn into our staff, right? I employ more people with lived experience than any other provider in the state, and we pay them really, really well. And that's because that's part of the model, right?
It's like, by the way, for that, because I know that our listeners know this, but my background's case management, social services, and that is the biggest contributor to burnout, I think, is when you feel like you're not getting paid. And I don't even want to say what you're worth, but it's just like for the work that you're doing, how hard it is.
Yeah.
Every day. The bad days are really bad and the good days are really good. But on those bad days, you're like, you know what? I don't know. It's hard when you look at your paycheck and you see it and you think about those bad days. It's hard. Yeah. And so it's really nice to hear somebody say, I'm going to pay people that are doing those jobs what those jobs are worth and what it entails, because it's a lot.
Yeah, for sure. So are these clients that are in recovery and then they they come on board as
certified peer support worker. Most people don't know what a CPSW is, right? That's a certified peer support worker, and meaning that they're a peer to the people in recovery because they've been through recovery themselves. So there's some recovery time required to go get certified to become a certified peer for supporting other people in recovery. So once you get your 2 to 3 years of recovery time, you do a week-long class to get certified through the state, and then now I can bill for your time as a peer with other people in recovery. And it's quite proven out at this point that it's a evidence-based modality of healing for people in recovery, because it builds trust and rapport with somebody that may not trust anybody, and they may not trust the therapist or the nurse or the doctor nearly as soon as they will their peers, right? So that status is a really powerful tool in the recovery industry. And so you're right, you're mentioning, Lindsay, the burnout, right? So the caseloads are heavy, the pay is light, and you're in a system that is not valuing the results typically, because there's like a siphoning out of resources from the top, because it's for profit, right? I mean, most of the industry is a model of extracting from the community because somebody is making, it's a for-profit entity. Not that claiming you're a nonprofit is going to, by definition, mean that you're doing any better of a job necessarily, but, we are focused on results. We believe that the currency is results. Why do I say that? Well, you mentioned that you feel like it's hopeless, and I think most people have that attitude, like, we can't solve this problem, right? So what value is solving the problem, right? Like, is that worth 1 million or 100 million or $1 billion? What is it? I mean, if you add up the cost of not addressing it, right, successfully, we know there's numbers there, right? The emergency room is not cheap, right? Crime is not cheap. And not feeling like your community is safe is not cheap. Like, it impacts the real estate value. Is your car going to get stolen? Are you going to die? I mean, there's a lot of negative ramifications from having somebody that's highly likely to harm themselves or other people, right? So what is the value? We have to figure that out. And we are highly focused on contingency management, meaning that's a technical term for saying reward behaviors you want repeated. So in the mental health substance use arena, contingency management is rewarding behaviors you want repeated. And that's incentivizing, right? So we're heavily focused on incentivizing. So we anchor our incentive with housing, because we don't think that you can get somebody to do recovery if they're homeless while homeless. Right. So we offer the housing, but then if they relapse 2 days later, then they have to start over. They're not kicked out of the program, but they don't get to sleep in that same house that night or that apartment that night. There's a consequence, right? 10-day detox again, or 30-day or 90-day, whatever the level they're at, right? I don't know. You have to stop me because I will.
No. This is interesting to me because I'm
keep going in too many directions.
Well, I think you're onto something with incentivization. I cannot talk today. I know that I'm like an incentives-based and driven person, and that to me is like a reward system. So if that's what somebody is working towards, and it only benefits them in the end, like, why would you not want to work on your own recovery?
It's pretty common sense, right? It has worked really, really well here at State of the Heart Recovery. The thing I think I'm most proud of is the culture here, the community culture that is high accountability and high support. So it's like, we're going to give you everything you say you need. Now you're going to have to do the hard work of recovery, because we know that's, it takes a lot of work from the individual to really do it, but it's impossible if they're not getting the resources that they need. And that's what we're trying to bring, so that excuse isn't there anymore.
So why do you think that maybe this approach or this kind of modality, the way you're approaching it, which I really think is cool, because we've seen in this industry the same things being tried over and over and over again with the same results, which I think is the definition of insanity.
That's right.
So why do you think this is so important for Albuquerque specifically? And why is it different?
The model?
Than what we've tried before. What makes it, in your opinion, the most effective thing? Because you're trying something totally different that, this away from the standard approach, which I think is great.
Yeah, there's so many parts there. I think it's a lack of alignment of resources. So because we're not focused on the success, then it's fee for service right now, right? So if you own the company and you give the service, you get paid. It doesn't matter if the value happens, right? Value-based pay is we've been talking about it for a long time, but it doesn't really, in practice, happen. Certainly, if you're an opioid treatment program, you get paid because you gave the medicine. And, the fact is, you have to give 1 hour of therapy a month for justifying that you're doing harm reduction and giving the medicine, right? And so if you're going to try to streamline a business, you're going to just maximize that. It turns out that individual contact impacts value in a really big way, but it doesn't impact your bottom line. So individual contact is way less financially productive than a group, because I could have 15 people with one therapist or one peer support worker, or I could have one with one.
Right.
So you just think about the difference in billing, right? So if you run a company, you're going to maximize your group and maximize your medically assisted treatment, but you're going to minimize your one-on-one.
Right. Your
That way,
quality of service goes way down.
That's a hypothesis, right? Does your quality of service go down if you don't do as much contact time? I mean, that's not a fact, or else maybe the rules would change and they would require more of that, right? So, it's just therapy's therapy, right? Is it group therapy? Is it individual therapy? How often should it be? But I have the hypothesis that direct contact is going to lead to relationships and building rapport and accountability, all of it, right? So we subsidize the individual contact with the resources from the group and the medically assisted treatment, and funnel that back into direct contact. And we hire, our ratio is insane compared to other providers, right? A quantity of staff to client ratio. So we have a really high number. Now that's one pillar, I guess, right? The rewards is a gigantic pillar. The housing is a gigantic part of it. Social determinants of health, right? Like if you've got somebody and you can offer them a shower, that's a big deal if they haven't taken a shower in a long time. Food, right? 2 meals a day here. Clean clothing, either wash your own clothes or get the clothes from the clothing closet that we have. These are things you might find like at a drop-in center or at a shelter, but you won't find them integrated into the quote treatment part of the process, right? And so we're really trying to address the social determinants of health within the same location.
Yeah. I was just thinking the very basics of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like food, shelter, clothing, some of the things that you need to kind of get.
You can't work on the bigger issues if you can't solve the smaller ones below it.
No doubt.
Or feel even good enough to do that physically. If you're hungry, you're not going to be thinking about therapy. You're going to be thinking, what am I going to eat next, right? So it's, And
they're joining a community. So the fact that we have 20 or 30 peer support workers, right? They're role modeling all day long a different life, right? And, $30 an hour is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they're watching this person that's 2 years ahead of them with a lifestyle like that. Right? And so they understand that we are supporting them to become that, and we will help them all the way through, right? We will help them with the down payment of their house 3 years later, literally, right? And they could have their own fourplex, and they could be the lead manager there doing peer support work with other people if they care to be in this industry, and most of them do. Most of them want to go do outreach back in the community and help kids in high schools, and they really care. In fact, we hook them a lot of times to take care of themselves with the idea that they want to take care of somebody else first. And it's like, okay, great, I'm going to give you the invitation to take care of other people. Well, now what's the first step? We got to take care of you, right? So we hook them, we turn right back around, and it's like, now they get it. Oh, okay. So now I have to worry about me first, and then I can help other people.
That's so funny, because I have a list of questions. I don't always do that, but I wrote down a bunch of questions this time. And question number 4, why is self-care so essential to recovery?
Yeah.
It sounds like you're advertising to a lot of folks that there's hope, right?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I always talk to them about the winning lottery ticket in their pocket. And I'm talking to them when I'm giving them a water bottle out in the alley, or when they're doing their intake, or when they call because they're going to do an intake tomorrow, at all points in the process, right? Or 3 months later of sobriety, whenever it is. What am I talking about when I say you have a winning lottery ticket in your pocket? If you were going to create a game, a digital game, right, you would go to the gamers and you'd question them about the game. They play the game all day, every day, right? So let's ask them questions about what's fun about the game, and let's make a better game. Like, that's what a developer of a game would do. Well, we're a developer of the algorithm of the recipe for healing and empowerment, right? In recovery. So where are we going to go? We're going to go to the people in recovery, or the ones that we think are a good candidate for recovery, right? Because they're homeless and addicted to multiple substances. So maybe they don't think they should be in recovery, but we think maybe they should. And so we check if they agree with us. And if they could agree with us and they could be successful, we get to all cash in on the ticket, right? And we are very transparent about the fact that we are not in this business for making money today. We're in business for cashing that big lottery ticket they're holding. Yeah. What happens when I get 50 people all kicking butt and we're not getting the same results as we've gotten in the past, right? Well, now we have something really valuable, I think, right? And so we include them in that journey, and they are getting in on the ground level, right, of a laboratory for innovation and empowerment and sobriety, emotionally and mentally, and they get it. Some of them get it, right? And when they get it, their peers get it. And, we talk about certified peers all the time, but what it has been keenly made aware to myself as we've talked more and been in this journey is the uncertified peers. Right. The ones that have only been here a few days, a few weeks, and what kind of impact do they have when somebody walks in the door today for an intake and they're around the actual customers that are here, that have only been here days or weeks before them, right? Uncertified peers. They're in the groups and they're out in the waiting room and they're outside and they're talking to them now. Those are they can sell the program, right? They can sell the idea that you just came here for another narcotic that you were going to just substitute here and there along with your fentanyl use and your meth use. And it's like, they didn't have an idea of changing their life necessarily.
Right. They came in for the physical use situation, and they might be leaving with something more valuable or coming back for something. Well, and that was actually, I wanted to kind of talk about intakes a little bit. When somebody walks through the door, kind of walk us through, maybe you're that person coming in for the first time. What does that process look like? What does that person experience? Kind of what would their scenario look like?
Sometimes it's me calling them back because I got an email alert that they went onto the website or Google and asked for information. So I call them up because I'm thrilled and excited that they're considering changing their life, right? Like, it's a gigantic deal in my mind. And so I really, I call them up, congratulate them, let them know if there are any questions I can ask for. You'd be amazed, like, literally, that they're, I'm a licensed clinician, right? It's not therapy. I'm not billing for therapy when I call them back, but it's very therapeutic because I could tell, because they start talking to me about all sorts of stuff a lot of times, right? And they're so grateful. And so honestly, it's like elevating them with respect and non-judgment and dignity and love. Non-judgment, in my opinion, is love. Being loved by somebody in real time, like, it's impactful. And so the whole journey, like, everybody that works here really gets that. And nobody works here that doesn't, So it should always be a vibe of joy, a vibe of non-judgment, right? Love. And so that's before they've gotten here, right? The ideal time to do an intake here is 6 a.m. because we get so busy. We do between 4 and 10 intakes a day, Monday through Thursday. actually Monday through Friday, but Fridays are not opioid treatment. So we're full substance use treatment, right? Alcohol, meth, whatever it is, but it does not have to be opioids. Fentanyl and heroin being the most popular ones, right? But there's also prescribed drugs that people use. They can come for any substance use. They'll show up at 6 in the morning, and throughout the next 2 to 4 hours, they will have seen a peer support worker, they will have seen a nurse, they will have seen a doctor, and it's our intake person that controls the flow. You know, if somebody doesn't get done that day, they get a McDonald's gift card, $10 gift card when they come back the next day to finish it. So we're very customer service focused, right? And if anybody ever has an issue, we treat it like if you're at a restaurant and you had an issue, like, how we can't give them a free service the next day, so we give them a gift card, Right. So
it's that incentivization again. That's good.
Yeah, that's right. Customer service. I mean, everybody here, all the staff understands who the customer is. I think a lot of these programs that give services for Medicaid, they think that Presbyterian's a customer because they're the payer. Right? They actually where you get your check from, or Blue Cross Blue Shield or Western Sky, right? We take Medicaid and Medicare from all the providers. So all the payers, but really they're not the customer, right? The customer is the customer. The
person in the lobby.
Yes. Oh my God. Why is that not obvious? But I don't feel like it's obvious. If you're in this industry, a lot of times, it doesn't end up looking like that. So while seeing those people, they're getting their, blood work, their urine drug tests, just getting qualified that they're a good candidate for medically assisted treatment or not. If it's substance use of another nature, right, then are they appropriate for this level of care? That's what that intake process is about. Sometimes they don't have insurance. Sometimes they don't have IDs. We pay for their IDs. We get them insured. Our job, as long as they're willing to get our support, we'll do the intake and take care of it, and then go get them all the stuff they need whenever they need it.
That's a really incredible thing that you just said. So paying for somebody's ID is huge. That is, in my experience, the one barrier that keeps people from doing the things that they need or want to do is, I don't have an ID and I can't afford it. Yeah. It's huge. Sure.
Our first year, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, a couple of times we didn't make payroll. But we did spend, I think, $22,000 in IDs that year.
But that's a huge impact because that helps people get access to services, to get their needs met. They can apply for things. Like, if you have an ID and you're just, a highly functioning human being, you don't think about that. That's not something that you have to worry about because you're like, I got my driver's license in my pocket. But when you don't have the ID, it bars you from so many different things. Like, it's unreal.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's take a quick break and we'll continue on. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. We'll be back.
Merch. Short for merchandise. You see it, you need it, you want to show it off. Especially if it's showing off your New Mexico pride, right? Well, the What's Up ABQ store has it, and it's ready to put on any space, any face, or any face. Just slip over to whatsupabq.com and click the merch tab above the podcast player. There you'll discover all the accessories, stickers, clothing, and drinkware with a New Mexico flair that you can ever want. Come on, you don't need that new toothbrush anyway, do ya? Pick up some merch now at whatsupabq.com.
Okay, we're back. So IDs.
So we had left that conversation kind of talking about how IDs were a barrier to a lot of services if somebody doesn't have one.
Or a shower. And not having a shower for 2 months is a barrier, right? I mean, food. These things are real barriers. And when you start providing that support, it is a game changer for somebody that nobody's done that for. And when it's connected with, a medicine that they're looking for, right? It's like all tied together. I mean, it is a great way to build goodwill, get some movement.
So I want to switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about that food truck in the back. Because you have a food truck just waiting to be utilized.
We got the grand tour of the space.
Yeah, tell us about the food truck because I think that's a really fun idea. I loved it. I was not expecting to see that today.
Yeah. Well, we have great ideas about the food truck. I mean, we want to give back to the community and, take it out on the road and help feed people that could use. I mean, I'd love to have a fleet of, 6 food trucks and have that be an employment program for clients that have graduated, right? Or employment readiness for the ones that are getting to that place. The purpose of it now is to be the place to make the food for the 2 meals a day that we have for the clients here now. It reminds me of the other venture that we're doing. So we're starting a barber school for men and women. And that's born out of the same idea, is this idea of what people need, right? So after your shower, if you have a spare $10, you might get a haircut, right? If you could find one for that inexpensive. If you're a woman, you're certainly not going to find a $10 haircut. I was trying to figure out how to get people beyond just a shower, that get their hair colored, get it styled, get their hair cut, to make it economical. And of course, we're focusing on training programs and employment readiness programs. And so it turns out that opening a barber school is a great idea. We've got 250 people walking in the door on a daily basis, right? And so, in a week, we probably have 300 unique people walking in the door. And theoretically, I mean, once a week for guys, they like haircuts pretty often. I mean, maybe that's just my kids. I don't know. I mean, every 2 weeks, maybe. I mean, these young kids are ridiculous. Maybe it's overboard, but
you gotta keep it. We have an 11-year-old. What does he say? It's
I don't know what he says.
crispy.
But he doesn't say that, but yeah, crispy is
This
one.
is how old I am. That's what they say.
exactly. So I think when you're in your 30s, you still want it at least every 2-3 weeks. I don't know. But my point was, I was like, how do I get that to happen? And so I figured out, a classroom of people getting their license would be ideal, because they have to practice on somebody, right? So we will be starting that soon. That's the food truck is like the same thing, right? You want some food. It's just like, if you get a truck, then you could do the employment part. So it's like, I'm always, with my entrepreneurial hat, I'm trying to figure out how to make it make sense economically and financially, right? Because it just doesn't add up in my mind to get a solution that doesn't scale.
Right.
And I'm very focused on a scalable solution, which is why we started with the methadone clinic, because there's a lot of money there.
Right.
They're coming every day, and the service is not enough, being that they're coming every day, right? So that is the same mentality that we're using for these other kind of ventures. And, that's what the food truck has to do with. That's what the barber school has to do with.
That's exciting. I'm thinking about your mom now.
Oh yeah, my mom cuts hair.
Yeah. She cuts hair. All right, I got some ideas. As we go. It's so funny.
I did want to mention something about the tech, because you had asked about the tech
Yes.
earlier, and
Thank
I didn't finish it, as I tend to do, is go off in directions. But what I was mentioning was that I had a real overzealous idea about how I would get the technology going. It was, virtual reality, augmented reality, biofeedback tools like, measuring your heart rate variability, measuring your brain waves, and then feeding that back into a light experience or a virtual reality experience or a sound experience, so that we could understand how our bodies work, right? Because the autonomic nervous system, the fight, flight, freeze response, being in survival mode rather than a creative mode, I mean, all of these things are really critical. And I had the sensory deprivation tank, and we had a VR that was waterproof, and we had signed up with a company that the experience was leaving the earth. So you would go in there, you would float, you'd put the VR experience on, and you would like leave the planet, right? And it was really a kind of a, that was, it ended up being quite a bit to get people through the process of a shower and then into the salt tank and then out and all of that. So what I went back to that is tech now, what we are really heavily involved with, is supporting what's lacking in this industry, and that is just purely data. And the timing, the timeliness of the data. So the treatment team, meaning the client and the nurse, doctor, therapist, probation officer, a brother, a sister, a family member, right? The whole team, the treatment team that is supporting somebody, how do they stay informed when people are kicking ass or struggling? right? Like, how can we be responsive? That's the point of the assessment, right?
Right.
So the golden thread with treatment is you do an assessment, a biological, psychological, social, biopsychosocial assessment, right? From a licensed clinician. You find out the strengths and weaknesses of what's going on. Then you create a treatment plan. And then from the treatment plan, you follow that with notes.
It's literally my homework today for school.
Oh yeah.
Yep. How to make a treatment plan.
Oh, really? A treatment plan for what?
Just for a scenario, just like a scenario they gave us.
In recovery or?
No, it was a mental health case. Like they gave us, like, this person is the demographics, and then they're coming in with this, and here's the stigmas that are attached, and here's I'm trying to remember. God.
What do you study?
So my degree is rehabilitative studies, and my minor is criminal justice.
Wow.
So I'm working on it.
Oh yeah, we could talk forever.
We should talk.
Yes, the data it's so critical. The timeliness of that data. And do they need a pat on the back, or a little bit of a kick, or a nudge, or to be kicked out of the housing? Like, what is happening today, right? Like today. That's what's critical. So we are measuring, our minimum viable product that we're working on measures 3 key facts. Their medically assisted treatment. In other words, did they dose today, right? The frequency of dosing. So we want to know every single day how many times in the past month, in the past week, in the past 3 days. And that will tell us what are the chances they're going to be coming tomorrow, because it's predictive, right? So the AI can help with that predictive analysis, but also we just want to see the trend. The 3-day moving average, the weekly moving average, the monthly, the 90 days, all of that with regards to their dosing. And then also their meds, like if they're on medication, right? Compliance for medication, which includes methadone in our scenario. And then frequency of therapy, just how much time are they putting with the treatment team on any given day. And then urine drug screen results. Is it positive or negative, and what is it positive or negative for, and how much? So those 3 things we're rolling into a dashboard that allows the treatment team to get this alert on a daily basis, so that they can really prioritize their time and resources on a day-to-day basis. So what we're doing is, more good days, meaning like powerful days, right? Powerful days sober and powerful, right? And so the more good days model is utilizing this tool to quantify and bring data to an industry that we think isn't doing as good as it can, right? And so I hope to get the hacking, the biohacking, because there's a lot of opportunity for sound therapy, light therapy, tools that, just like everybody wears a Fitbit and does all this stuff to see how many steps they're taking and so forth and so on. There's a lot of opportunity there. But what we're starting with is those 3 data points, and then a reward system for what they're doing. The anchor of the reward is the housing, and then maybe it's a backpack, maybe it's a pizza trip. They went to the Sleta Lakes on the 30th, right before New Year's. The clients that had so much sobriety, I think it was 30 plus days or 60 plus days, I wasn't sure, but they all went fishing and they had a great time. They go to the pit and watch basketball games. Basically, the idea is like, let's celebrate the wins more often, and we need that tool to do it. That's what tech looks like at the beginning, and then we'll get into the more fun experiences, when it comes to VR and other stuff.
Well, tech is exploding. I know that. Like, you mentioned AI. There's like Apple is releasing their new headset next month, and it's like $3,500 or something.
That. I'm like, a headset to me is a headset. Yeah. That's cool.
And of course, Meta is doing their thing. So it's like definitely entertainment, but I never would have imagined that it would be used as like a therapy tool. But that's...
Well, but think about all the therapeutic benefits that we haven't even harnessed yet, because we just haven't had the technology to do it. It's getting there, though. We're at the point where it's starting.
Right?
Yeah,
it's there now. It's just not being focused on this industry, and it could be 15 more years if we don't create our own destiny, right?
Data.
It's important, right? And you have to subsidize it at first, because it's not an evidence-based modality of healing, right? So if you don't have the approval, well then what we have to do is just let it be entertainment until we show, oh, we gave them entertainment for 3 months and now they're sober for 3 years.
Here's the correlation.
Yeah, and in fact, if they don't want to pay for it, we just keep subsidizing it anyway, right? Like the goal is that we're going to get the recovery at the other end, and that's really what matters. We have to use scalable solutions, so not just to be financially strong, but also there's so many ways that tech is going to be used to destroy human beings, like as we speak, right? Like those things, there's an incentive to do that, right? Because they can sell. So if they can hack what you're going to want to spend your time with or what you're going to buy, then they're going to do that. And they're going to do their best to scale those things for marketing and the military, right? Those two things are well funded. So, my thought...
Videos freak me out. I'm just going to say that. I've watched a couple DARPA videos and I'm like, no more. Like, good.
Black Mirror?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Black Mirror, yeah. There you go.
Robots doing backflips and karate, kinds of stuff.
Yeah. And so, my thought was, I've been following AI for 20 years. Ben Bortzel, he coined artificial intelligence, and he created Singularity Net, which is a blockchain solution that uses artificial intelligence. And back then, I've always tried to figure out, like, we got to do something that's exponential also, right? That's empowering for people. And that's what State of the Heart Recovery, it's really brilliant and well timed. We're 3 years old, but it really has been exponential on our growth, because without the tech, actually, right? But now we're bringing the tech in to make it easier, but so far we're just using spreadsheets and just like all manually doing it. It's a little bit frustrating, but all the tools are there. You can talk your note, like we can record a session and it just gives you a summary of the note, and you can just approve that note and it goes right into your health record system, and then feeds that next time you're meeting with somebody. It's basically what we're trying to do is create a evolving treatment plan that gets updated every single time you're having a session and talking to somebody, because now you know what you've done and what you want to do. Do you still want to do what you said you wanted to do last week or yesterday, or are we changing it,
And the old school case noting takes such a long time. So anytime you can streamline that, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and everybody keeps talking about how critical the data is, but the clinician doesn't want more work.
Right.
Like, we got into this field to
give paper, please.
Yeah, we got into the field to help people directly, right? But instead, we keep getting bombarded with more responsibilities that are not contact with the client. And so that was one of the other reasons why I tried to figure something out, is for all of my weaknesses as a clinician, right? So I feel like my non-judgmental stance is really valuable one-on-one with interacting with somebody. But I would always go long on my sessions, and I hated when I was done at the end of the day with 5 or 6 sessions. It's been 8 hours and I haven't done a single note.
Right.
And I got to do all those notes, and I hated that part of it, right? And so I was like, man, I want to have a state-of-the-art spot where we can support people like me that are going to be pushed out of the industry, but they can do good work with human beings one-on-one, but they don't like that other part. Then you've got people that are really good at the note-taking, but they're like monotone, they're kind of dry and not really feeling it, and the client doesn't really like spending time with them, right? And yeah, so you've got both sides, right? So I figured we should be a training center for really empowering both sides of that.
I think that's really cool. So I have 2 questions.
Okay.
You can ask the golden question, but I'll ask the other 2. How can the community help you moving forward? Donations, staff, what do you need to be successful? What do you need to be successful?
I think it's a beautiful experiment that we're having here, right? Bill Gates is started right across the street. The monument memorializing that is right there, right? And here we are standing to do the same thing for the substance use, mental health, and housing industrial complex. And
The
honestly,
irony's not lost on me. I think that's really cool.
I think that we need to just join each other, like cross-pollinate, like this thing is so much bigger than me, right? Like I was dumb enough to start it without the resources to do it and lucky enough to have survived. But I think it's because everybody else here, like there's no question that I didn't have the resources to do this. And I just tried anyway. And it's here because it's bigger, because there's something bigger taking this place where it's going. And we're ready for more, like we don't have really like a Facebook presence, a X presence. We're trying to just, like, this is our year, like we survived for 3 years and now 2024, we get to stand on our foundation that we've built, right? But we had to build that foundation before we could stand on it. And so now it's really about coming and visiting, helping us just share the ideas and supporting the overall mission. I don't know. We pride ourselves on paying better than anybody in this game. I do need therapists. So I guess that is a very clear thing that I do need. So if there's any therapists out there, we have a lot of LSAAs, which are strictly substance use therapists. Right. And then we have a handful of independently licensed, the highest level you can go therapists. But we need some middle therapists, right? Mental health therapists. So the acronym is LMHC, Licensed Mental Health Counselor. That's before you're an independent counselor. Or LMSW, Licensed Master Social Workers. They're the equivalent, but some go for social work, some go for mental health when you're getting your master's degree. So anybody that is a therapist that is interested in this demographic, we would certainly love to hear from you, and we would like to hire you. And otherwise, it's just kind of more joining the journey, I think. Like, narrative is so important, it's so powerful, and the scale, right? We are really focused on transparency and accountability back from the data. So I think we're going to have a lot of ammunition to really not be bullied in this industry. This industry has got a lot of bullies, and you got to really show up ready for that. And so the community is unstoppable, right? We just celebrated Martin Luther King yesterday, right? Too perfect. Like, that's what I'm focused on. I'm focused on a grassroots-led, super powerful movement that is super appropriately timed. I mean, it could not be better timed for us to deal with this crisis. So it's really just sharing space with each other and talking about ways that it works and doesn't work. And this housing first model, that's a whole nother interview we'll have to do about housing. But housing first, I'll just say 2 sentences. Housing doesn't work without any accountability. And you need to know what somebody brings to the table if you're going to help support them. So you need to have some level of assessment. And for people to say that that's a barrier to entry, it's just wrong. You need to do an assessment, get them into the housing, and use that assessment to help them. But I've been told too many times, oh no, housing first money, you don't get to do an assessment on them because that's a barrier for them. Well, what are you going to do? Put somebody in there that's going to kill themselves in the bathroom? You have to assess the situation. And so we got to fix the housing problem because it's a treatmentlessness problem, not a homelessness problem. So we got to deal with the full community support from the treatment side. So that's a long answer, but.
No, that's a great answer. My last question, and this is just kind of because I'm curious. Somebody's maybe listening, they know somebody, they're thinking about coming by, they're thinking about recovery, they're not sure. What do you say to them? What's your elevator pitch if you have one?
Well, I mean, the first thing I got to say is just take a deep breath, man. We all want to fix too much too fast, and it's not doable. It's like it all starts with self-care. And the person that's thinking about somebody else right now probably needs their own deep breath, honestly. Take your own deep breath, take your own walk, and go drink some water. Like, that is where you have to start. And then let's think about how you might, help somebody else, right? Because you can't help somebody that's not ready for that. And role modeling is the best way to help. So if you can feel like there's a way for you to increase your power today, focus on that. And that other person, whether it's your mom or your daughter or your husband or whoever it is going to get the value from your standing up and being powerful. And I think that is the crux of so much difficulty, is this enabling that human beings do to others in the name of love. That's not love. That's enabling. There's a difference. You could not judge them, but not help them kill themselves. And you don't do that without helping yourself first. So I really think that we need to just take a breath and look back at ourselves and not be focused on somebody else prematurely. I think that's everybody's best excuse. I'm focused on my kids. I'm focused on my parents. I'm focused on my husband. I'm focused on whomever. And it's like, well, it sounds like you've got it sealed up why you're not working on you. I think if we all work on us, we impact everybody else so much more profoundly. So I know that doesn't answer the pitch about getting over here to State of the Heart Recovery, but our doors are open 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Come anytime. The earlier, the better. And yeah.
Well, definitely appreciate your time. So, final question. Red or green? This is the What's Up ABQ podcast. We end every podcast.
Christmas. Absolutely.
And if you're going to go somewhere, and we'll just throw anywhere in New Mexico to get your red or green or Christmas, where do you go?
Well, I got it at John Brooks this last time, and it was phenomenal. Roasted green. The red, I buy it in the jar from the Cervantes. I cheat with that, but my dad would never do that. He has to put the pods in there and soak them and do the whole blender thing. And I mean, you can't beat that. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. If I was ever going to leave, I was just telling my kids, I've never been to Europe. God, the chili. What would you do? You just have to come and travel to New Mexico just so you could get that, right?
Yeah, have somebody ship it, but it's not going to be the same even.
Yeah. No, I know. We're so lucky because you can't find it anywhere else. Yeah.
We lived in Portland for a brief time, and there was chili, but it wasn't.
You lived in Portland for the first part of your life.
Yeah, but I didn't know what I was missing, Yeah. I didn't know. Now I know.
It's easier to miss something if you don't know you're missing it.
That's and
right.
Do you have a favorite dish, chili dish that you like to eat or make?
Green chili chicken enchiladas, but also red chili beef enchiladas. I love to cook. Oh, yeah. So I love to eat, so I have to love to cook, right?
That's how.
And I would say those are two of my favorites that I can do a pretty phenomenal job with. Yeah, eggs, 3 over easy eggs on top.
You're just putting yourself in that food truck. You know that, right?
Yeah, right? I know. It would be great. Yeah.
So if there's any, grandmas, moms, aunties that want to come and cook some chili in the food truck, maybe volunteer your time, give a couple haircuts, that might be a really good thing.
But yeah, thanks for showing us your place here. Again, appreciate the work that you're doing. And
keep it up.
Yeah. And what was the contact information? What's the website?
It's www.stateoftheheartrecovery.com. It's long, but it's just the whole thing, stateoftheheartrecovery.com. Our phone number is 505-308-8296. And our address is 203 California Street. And we're just northeast of San Pedro and Central, right by the State Fairgrounds in the International District. Come and say hi anytime. My number is 505-688-1228 if anybody wants to hit me up.
There you go. Awesome. We will link all of those things in the show notes in case you missed it. But thank you so much. We appreciate your time and your building and all the stuff you do.
Thanks you guys for building community. I mean, this is the name of the game, is connecting with other people. It's so powerful to get people from different capacities talking in the same room. I think it's the most powerful thing that we can do. And right now, everybody wants to split not everybody. People in the most powerful positions want just average us to not be aligned. And we have so much alignment. And it's like they want us to pick things, then divide ourselves, right? But as soon as you get into a room with people in your community, who cares if you hate or love Trump? Who cares? It just doesn't end up being anything. And I don't think we get to that without being in the room. If you're digital, if you're in the virtual space, it's oh yeah, I got to check to see if you love Trump first, right? or hate Trump,
Or just come eat chili in the same room and forget about it. I don't know.
Exactly. I think as soon as we get in spaces together in real life, it's a big deal. Then you can branch out to some virtual community and be efficient about your communication. But I think we need to do more connecting in real life. So maybe we should throw a community party here someday.
Yeah, no, I'm down. I'll show up.
I agree.
I'll bring the.
We can have a What's Up ABQ.
Yeah, there you go.
The block party.
Yeah,
That's what
block
I'm saying.
party.
We got space right there, 6700 Central for the new IOP building.
Across the street from the founding of Microsoft. There you go.
We have to have some really great name.
We should invite Bill Gates. Say Bill
Why
Gates.
not?
Come on.
Yeah,
Get his number.
that's right. He should give us some funding. Huh?
Since we're talking about it, right?
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining. We'll talk to you guys in the next one.
Thanks for listening to What's Up ABQ, the podcast dedicated to the lovers and livelihoods of the Duke City. Now in our 7th season, we bring you the voices of the people in Albuquerque that make this place a great place to live. If you have someone or something that we should know about and feature in an upcoming episode, drop us a line on our website, whatsupabq.com, and please consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Thanks for checking in, and don't miss the next episode of What's Up ABQ.